Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
We are here.
Back once again.
Episode 23 of the Cornwall Property Podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we're here to inform, educate and inspire you guys to get involved with property with a particular emphasis, hopefully, on the Cornwall property market. So, yes, this is our market update episode where we are going to give you a few topical news stories within the property market, locally and nationally. And then we've got our property picks of the week, one commercial and one residential.
Absolutely. And most of you know how to get in contact with us. But for all of you new listeners and viewers, you can go to cornwallpropertypodcast.com. You can get us on social media. And you can also send us an email on hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com. And as always, thank you very much for all of your questions and support over the time that we've been operating. It's great to be involved with you.
For sure. We've had some lovely emails recently, actually.
We have.
So we will go through some of those in the upcoming podcasts as well. But thank you so much for getting in touch. It does really is nice to read and to hear from you guys as well and hear what a positive impact the podcast is having on so many people's investment journeys and it's actually affected and changed people's minds on where they're moving as well, interestingly. So, thank you for that. Please do keep them coming. It's always lovely to hear from you, and we'll always endeavour to get back to you as soon as we possibly can as well. But I'm going to get us kicked off then, James. I have got two, I'd like to say relatively topical news articles to share with you guys. So I'm looking at, again, this could be seen as a positive depending on what angle you're coming at, or a negative. But from an investment side of things, I'd see it as a positive. But the reports on rent increases for the sixth consecutive quarter. So for the last 6 quarters, so a year and a half, rents have increased quarter on quarter. So interestingly, this is a report that is from the DPS, so the Deposit Protection Service. So those that aren't familiar, if you are renting a property, you have to give a deposit, and the deposit must be lodged with an accredited governing body. So DPS are one of those accredited governing bodies. So they are someone who, obviously, when you do log a deposit, you have to inform them of what your rent is and things like that. So that's how they get all this statistic and this data. So average UK rents have increased for the sixth consecutive quarter, and whilst also producing evidence now that some tenants are paying over the odds to secure a property. So average rents now stand at £849 a month. So that's a 1.8% increase. It's £15 increase per month from Q4 last year. So again, it doesn't sound massive, but when you add that up throughout the year, it all totals up, and it all adds up eventually.
Massively.
But every quarter, it's been going up steadily. So to go over those figures in, average rent, £849 a month. That has gone up £15 on Q4 and £49 on Q1 last year. So in a year, you're looking at paying nearly £50 extra a month on rental. So again, when you start adding that up over 12 months, you can see where it all totals up. And again, the spending is going up, your cost of living is going up, and then obviously the rents are following. So a survey by the organisation was conducted, and it also showed that 15% of tenants who responded to the survey actually paid more than it was advertised. So people are going above the odds. Now, the interesting thing here is that they looked at to why people were saying that they did pay over the odds. So 43% of the people that responded said that they were paying because they were desperate to secure a property. So again, because there was not enough on the market, they're obviously really, really trying to get that property, and by doing so, they're overpaying. So that's 43% of these people. 26% of the people who replied said that there was nothing else available, so they had no choice. And again, so I imagine similarly, they were desperate to secure that property. 11% said that the agent asked them for a best offer. So said, look, give us your best offer. So another quite tactful way for an agent to do that. Again, not great, not nice, especially when you're trying to secure and there's a lot of emotion involved, but another reason why people are overpaying. And another final 11% said that they had overpaid because they just simply loved the property that they were looking at. So, yeah, some interesting numbers. I think a lot of it comes down to stock. There's not enough rental stock, private rental stock on the market. Hence why there's that kind of desperation to secure things. And how do they do it? Well, they throw more money at it. But yeah, nothing that's really of massive surprise. But I think when you start looking at the numbers and the figures, it does start totaling up, don't you think?
It does, and I want to say, is this an opportunity for landlords to charge more rent so they can make more money? But I honestly don't think it is. I also think it's to do with, yes, we've had some very, very good interest rates with the base rate, being so low, but as I come on to with some of my points in this podcast, the base rate and things are on the rise again. So where does that, where do those increases end up with the tenant, really? So I think, if you can afford it and you're on a really, really good salary, then okay, fair enough to be in that competition pool where you can, outbid somebody else. But if we bring this back down to sort of, Cornwall as well, there is only so much opportunity with what people can earn down here with the jobs that they have. And if there are still people moving down here out of country, it's a little bit worrying, I think, for the local people, which, as you know, Dan, this is what we're all about. And it's, it's also a big worry with the cost of living. I mean, I know it seems like it's repetitive news about the bills going up, but, we are here to inform you guys. And, they are going up and up and up. And again, they're not saying it's going to hold off anymore. So it is a shame. And, how expensive is it going to be to actually rent and, live somewhere? It's a worrying time still, I feel.
Yeah, especially trying to get out of the rut of renting as well.
Exactly.
People don't necessarily see it as negative, and it's not necessarily negative if it fits your lifestyle and the way that you the way that you're setting up your finances. But I know a lot of people are renting with the aim and the dream of owning their own home, and it's a lot harder then to save if that extra cash is now having to go on the rent that they don't necessarily see anything more for. So
Agreed.
It is what it is. But that was just an interesting topic article that caught my eye. Again, when you guys go onto the show notes on whatever platform you're viewing or listening to this podcast on, you can access all of these articles in the show notes. There are links included. So a second article that I have brought up is from Landlord Zone, and this is actually an interesting one. It's something that we've kind of heard about. It's no surprise, but it's kind of like, it's actually happening. So here we are looking at Secretary of State approval of a new select licensing scheme. Now, this is geared, and it is actually focusing on Oxford as a location, but if you bear with me, you'll see why I'm bringing this up is because it tends to be Oxford that gets started on here. They kind of lead the way. So Oxford has received Secretary of State approval for its controversial new selective licensing scheme covering half of the city. So this was first announced August 2020, that they were saying, look, we're going to start licensing private rental properties. Now, similar to HMO licensing, as we mentioned again previously in older podcasts, what we've already recorded, there is a requirement that if you've got a HMO, so a house of multiple occupancy, it's simply where there's 3 or more people living in it, a property that are not from the same family, that is deemed a HMO, a shared house. When you have a shared house, HMO, with 5 or more tenants, you are then in the licensing band as such. So if you have 4 tenants, then you don't need to worry about a license. But if you have 5, you then have to physically get licensed. And with that, you've got to adhere to certain amenity requirements, bedroom sizes, etc., etc., etc. Now, this kind of goes a bit further down. That was just singling out HMOs. This is now looking at all private rental properties. So, as it said here, 49.3% of the city's housing stock will need now to be licensed from the 1st of September. Now, that is this year. So they're kicking this into force this year, 2022. Oxford was the first council in England to introduce a citywide scheme that required every HMO to be licensed back in 2011. So this is kind of like, ooh, okay. So they were the first to require all the HMO licensing, and look what happened then. It's been rolled out nationally. This is now the first one that has been given the nod for the private selected licensing. So let me give you a little bit more information about this. So the NRLA opposed the new scheme during the authorities' consultation. Now, they argued that HMOs and the licensing had led to rent increases, and that those on lower incomes in the city have been driven out of the city as the council was seeking to rehouse people in local areas and nearby areas. So the council says an independent review of housing conditions in 2020 found that a fifth, which works out to be about 6,200 of the 30,500 homes in Oxford's private rented sector, could have a serious housing hazard. So they're deemed not safe. Now, they've got this information because there's been a lot of complaints by tenants and things like that. That is where all this information has come from. And that is what has initiated and triggered this now to be moved forward. So a 5-year licence for a selective licensing scheme will cost £480. Now, what they're trying to do here is give an early bird discount. So those landlords in Oxford that get involved and get enrolled on this early doors, they can then get an £80 saving, so they would only have to pay £400, but they need to apply in the first 3 months. So again, very, very similar to the HMO licensing. This is the same sort of way it works. You've got to adhere to certain regulations, prove that you're compliant, get your checks. My issue with this is, again, I'm all for it. I've got no issues at all with regards to licensing, as long as it is rolled out, it's safe. But it's got to be policed. What's the point in having this if it's not going to be policed? Because how are they going to police this? We are aware of there's many properties, even in Cornwall, where there's HMOs, shared houses, but they're not licensed. Well, how are you going to police that? There's not enough manpower, woman power to get this enforced, I feel, throughout. So again, just sharing this because last time Oxford was the first place to be rolling out the HMO licensing. Now this is the selective licensing for all private rental properties. And I guess watch this space, see what happens next. But this is coming into play from September this year. Thoughts on that one?
I say it once, I'll say it again, and I'm always up for improving the quality and standards of living. And as we've discussed in podcasts previously, there's a lot of road landlords out there. So I think it's, on the whole, it's a very positive thing. And I think there should be more inspections, not just in HMO, just completely across the board for anybody who's renting, especially with the prices that we've just talked about. You're paying good, hard-earned money. You should have good standards to live in. So on that side of thing, I think it's very good. I also very much agree with you on how do you police it. There's no doubt about it. The reality is you can't police that. You just physically, the numbers wouldn't stack up, as you said, for the manpower. But I think the way they'll probably do it is that you could get a on-the-spot check, a bit like your tax. They haven't got enough manpower to check all the dodgy people doing all their fake accounts or what have you. But they know that if you get audited, you could be in big trouble. So it is a deterrent. So I think anything that they do to just try and, get people to meet standards is good. So I think they'll roll it out like that 1 in 100, for example, but that could be you, and if you come out, you would be in a lot of trouble. And I think what they'll probably do is maybe put the penalties to be severe, if you know what I mean. Fines in place, you've got X days to upgrade it or to improve it, and if you don't, your tenants will have to move out, and they know that's even worse because they won't be getting any money, and especially if they're in a model where they've got a mortgage going out. So I think it'll be spot checks, but is it better for the rental sector? Absolutely, and I think it's one step in the right direction for giving better quality of living, which we're all about. So I'm up for it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it comes down to simply there's extra costs there for the landlord to endure. Realistically, where are those costs going to be paid?
That's the tenant.
This is it. So yeah, interesting. Just wanted to share that with you guys, and be interested to hear your thoughts on it too. Please do get in touch. So James, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got some headlines here, and I know we've talked a lot about house price rises over the last few months, but I've got also another one with house prices, but it's to look at it in a bit of a different way. So the headline I've got is a rise in house prices creates £800 billion of potential equity in the first quarter, according to Halifax. Now, I'm sure most of you do understand what equity is, but just to recap on that, that is you have your mortgage on your house, you owe so much to the bank. Let's say your house is worth $300,000 and you owe $250,000 mortgage. The equity is the money left over. So your profit, essentially, if you want to look at it like that, but the equity there would be 50,000. So, if you were to sell it, it's the money that you'd have there in your hand. Now, 800 billion, available for people to refinance and get their money out is a huge amount. So some bits and pieces on this then. Almost 800 billion of equity was available for lease in UK homes during the first quarter of 2022, representing an increase of more than 19 billion pounds in 3 months, and the first time it has exceeded this milestone, according to the latest data from Halifax's quarterly regional house price index. So if we sort of looked at what we were talking about earlier about, cost of living, I think this could be quite tempting for people to think, okay, well, maybe our house prices are going up and our house is worth more than what we paid for it and our equity is building it. But is this a good time to secure a good interest rate, refinance, get some money out and have a safety net in case we struggle to afford, the bills that are going up? The article went on to explain that the data, which was analysed by Canada Life, found the total amount of housing equity available to homeowners aged over 55 now stands at an estimated £785.4 billion. So the majority of that equity is actually available to the over 55s. Presumably, this is the majority of that equity is people that bought quite, maybe 20 years ago. So they've built
or
up.
They've cleared their mortgages now, or things like that, isn't it?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly. People who've cleared their mortgages. It showed that the average price of a property in the southeast is $385,000, creating $153.5 billion of potential equity, and making it the highest value region in the UK. London followed closely, with the average house price there is at $534,000, creating $143.1 billion of total potential equity. I did look all the way through the article, obviously, and I couldn't find anything for the Southwest, but I think it's fairly obvious that we've had some of the biggest growth in the last 2 years than anywhere in the country, so the figures aren't going to be far off that. But what's your thoughts on it, Dan? Do you sort of think people might be tempted to refinance or use it, a nice holiday of the last 2 years, or to actually have a safety buffer for the world we live in where, we're running out of this, that and the other?
It all depends on everyone's position and appetite for risk, I guess, isn't it? I know a lot of people are very much on the I don't want a mortgage, but at the same time, I am very much for the case of I actually want a mortgage because my money is going to be able to work better in my back pocket, and when I invest it elsewhere, then it is just sat in my house, sort of thing. So I think it all depends on the type of person and mentality you've got, and mentality you have, and experience and maybe knowledge. But if you are, my advice, again, we're not financial advisors, please seek advice, but if I were in a position, which, to be fair, we've just had our residential property remortgaged, and we've got a nice lump of equity in there, which in theory, we could take out and invest it again. But we're in a position now, actually, we'd like to just have a lower cash payments each month, lower that cash flow requirement, because obviously cost of living is generally going up. So we can manage, because we've just remortgaged, we're managing to save ourselves, because the interest rates are so much better than when we took them out initially. We're saving ourselves about £200 a month. So, but let's be honest, that's soon going to be going in the electricity bills that are going up. We're on all electric where we are. And I think it's just sensible. So would people remortgage? I wouldn't remortgage. You've got to weigh up, haven't you? Because if you're going to exit your mortgage early, you can have a redemption penalty. So you've got to weigh up, what is that penalty cost? How much is that going to cost you? Okay, add that to the figure that you're potentially going to be taking out, and does it weigh up? If you take that money out, what are you going to do with that money? Are you just going to go and blow it? Or can you make that money work harder for you in investing it? So again, this might encourage questions from you guys listening to us now, is maybe how would you like to invest it, or things like that. But if you've got any questions on this, please just get in touch. We'd love to help where we can. But yeah, I think if I am struggling and I've got the opportunity, I would release a bit of equity there, maybe have it in the rainy day fund, because when the cash is in the property, it's really hard to access it.
No, absolutely. And, we can see from this article that they're saying a lot of people, I think it was, 785 billion of that 800,000 is for, over 55s. Now, if that's in a residential mortgage, don't forget they may have all that equity, but a lot of those people may even be retired if they're lucky enough to be. And, if there's going to release that equity, they obviously have to have income to show that they can support that. So they might not be able to get a mortgage to release the equity. But it's interesting to see that, how much equity is actually floating around with the huge house prices that have been all over the country in the last couple of years. So
big numbers.
We shall see. And talking of numbers and expenses as well, no surprise here that my second headline on the financials is Sunak expects interest rate to hit 2.5%. The Times reports that the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, believes that interest rates will rise by 2.5% over the next 12 months. Well, I know that we've been talking about it over the last few episodes, but, it's becoming a reality now. Again, COVID, we've got to pay things back, and, this is the direction we're going in. It says he reported this to the Cabinet last Tuesday, allegedly adding that homeowners who are not on a fixed rate deal could see their mortgage payments rise, wait for it, by £1,000 a month. As if gas, electric, water, everything wasn't going up. And I mean, that's a huge amount for a household, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, and as we've been drumming on, secure yourself a rate as quick as you can, because you just need to know that, have that security now. The rates are good. They're only going in one direction, and they're still lower than what they previously were. So get yourself a good rate, and you know then what you're paying month on month for the next few years. But that's definitely something that I would advise. Again, not financial advisors, but that's something that I would recommend doing, because that's given me a lot of peace of mind knowing what I'm paying every single month for the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And very soon, Bank of England members will meet on the 5th of May to decide whether the base rate should move again or not. Many market watchers believe another increase is on the cards. I mean, we've had 3 already this year. I mean,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and we've got to pay back, and we've got to, watch the inflation with the cost of living and everything. It's going to be a very tough year for sure. And Trussell head of mortgage operations, Amanda Amunor, says, given the recent history of low interest rates, many have not needed to keep an eye on their mortgage deal, as there wasn't much variability in tracker rates. However, with interest rises set to continue like clockwork throughout the year, timing is now key. Homeowners could find a huge difference between fixing in a long-term deal now compared with the end of the year. And this is what we've been saying for quite a long time. Again, we're not financial advisors, but it's pretty obvious if you can get those deals in now, 5, 10, there's even 30-year products, get them set up.
Yeah, look, Amanda's been listening to our podcast clearly, because she's just copied exactly everything we've just said. So no, definitely get yourself secured on a good rate, because they are out there. And literally, to give an example, I personally had my residential mortgage come up for renewal. It's up for renewal in a couple of months, so I've got my broker on the case, and they had got me a deal for a set rate. I think it was, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but say for example, argument's sake, it was 2.74%, 5-year fixed, and then literally went to secure it. The next day, it had already gone up to 3.04%. So they are rising on the daily at the moment. So get yourself secured as quick as you possibly can.
Yeah, I'd certainly say, as a bit of advice, if you haven't got the time to do that, then do what Dan did, get a broker, and they can do the dog work for you and come back to you and go, hey, this is the best 3 deals, pick one, let's get you signed up. And
100%, I think the best thing and the best advice I would give on that is, even though your mortgage isn't maybe up now, and it's maybe up in 3-4 months' time, start getting the paperwork in order, get your ID checks done, get all your bank statements, get all that in order.
Really
so when you are in a position, you can just push the button and jump on a rate. Because as I've just experienced there in the last week or so, rates are changing in the space of a week and days at the moment. So yeah, there's a bit of advice. Hopefully that can help. But great stuff. Thank you for those, James. We are going to crack on then with our picks of the week. So this is a part of the episode where Dan, will pick a commercial property that's currently on the open market here in Cornwall that is available. Obviously, one thing that we're truly trying to bang the drum of is this Cornwall housing crisis. And we are trying to encourage and show you guys how we can all help bridge this gap between people needing houses and there not being enough stock. So I have picked a commercial property, which is a development opportunity for someone maybe with a little bit more experience, but something they can make some money and bring some houses to the market. And James here has got a residential property also. So if you are viewing on YouTube, you will be able to access and watch us flick through the actual Rightmove links on these properties. If you are not and you're listening on your podcast Audible devices, if you go onto the show notes, you can see the links to these properties and you can access them yourself on there if they're hopefully still live. But yeah, if I can crack on with my one then. So I've got, it's Trehawk House. Now this is in Liskeard, and this one, we love a Grade 2 listed building, James and I.
Certainly do.
This is a Grade 2 listed building, right in the heart of Liskeard. It was the old NatWest Bank, interestingly. It's over 5 floors, and the best bit is that there's already planning consent granted for this development. So, as I say, this is the old NatWest Bank. It's currently on the market for 475,000, or as it says, offers are sought in the region of. But yeah, so it's on there for 475,000, and it's got listed, Grade 2 listing. It's got consent for 8 apartments. That consists of 3 2-bed apartments and 5 1-beds. So, good opportunity to bring their 8 apartments to the market. Obviously, there's some costs involved there and implications, but you've got to do your due diligence. The great thing is, with this being a listed building, the hard work with regards to consent, they've given a nod for it. Now you need to get your heritage consultant around there to get your heritage statement and get the details and the nooks and crannies of this development sorted out. But if you're flicking through the photos with me here, you can see it. Beautiful property there. Some great features. It looks to be in good condition from the outside. You can see the floor plans in the advert as well and how they're trying to configure this now. So, yeah, good opportunity there, I think, possibly. So work your numbers. How we would do this, again, is what's your GDV, working out what those 8 apartments would end values be. Maybe you could speak to local agents, or if you know the area very well, you may have a really good steer on that. But work backwards. What's the end value? What sort of profit do you think you need to make this viable for yourself? And then work out on the build costs, and then you can see if that stacks for you. But yeah, thoughts on that one, James?
Yeah, very nice looking building. I mean, we always like the grade 2 listed buildings. We're a bit of a historians in that respect. But yeah, I think there's really good opportunity from the outside. I think it looks in pretty good condition, which is nice to see. The position is obviously very good. It's got, shops and, well, it's bang on in the heart there, isn't it? There's a lot going on.
I imagine there's a reason why there's not too much of an issue with the apartments and no parking. I can imagine there not being too much of an issue there because it is so central.
So local. So I think it would be, very good for locals and people working in the surrounding area. Good find there, Dan.
Yeah, must be. My only concerns would be getting the builders in and the materials and the skips and all that sort of thing. That might be the only issues. But again, something to consider. And if anyone's got any questions about it, get in touch. Let us know.
Absolutely, and I've got the residential property of the week here. So this was, quite a sad 2-bed bungalow that I found in Lostwithiel, and this is a real opportunity here, and I think there's some good scope for money to be made. So it's on the market here at a guide price of £100,000. Now, don't be too alarmed, but it is cash purchase only on this one. But it is, it's not showing any signs of Mundic or anything like that. It's just the vendor wants it to be there at £100,000. And it's a development opportunity for a complete renovation there. And it can also be a building plot as well. So depending what you wanted to do with it, I think it's going to need some decent money thrown at it. It's also got a parking space as well, and also a private garden out the back. So I think personally it would be very good for a small family there to have or an investor to bring a house back to the market and make some decent money on it. I had a bit of a look on the comparables in the area, and I think you'd be looking at maybe sort of end value there of about 220, potentially even a little bit more. But yeah, no, very good opportunity there indeed. Have you got any sort of thoughts on that one, Dan?
Yeah, no, nice one. And again, just here, if you've got the link open, I've got it here for you as well. Just looking through it, definitely needed some love. Definitely needed some love, isn't it? And it's empty. Again, bringing another property to the market. I think that's the key emphasis here for us. And it's affordable. It's a good entry level rate, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, as I say, it's a good opportunity. I hate seeing empty properties that are in need of some love. And Lostwithiel, it's a lovely area, Lostwithiel as well.
Quite quiet as well. I think you need a good build team on this one, if I'm honest. There's quite a lot to do. It's not just sort of like a, 1 or 2 day workers to go in there. I think you'd need to get a good, small construction company come in and, give you a decent quote for it and hit it hard.
For sure. And again, potential building plot. So it might be a knockdown job as well, perhaps. Might be far better. The best thing to do for there, tips on that would maybe get on Street View. Google Earth, Street View, have a look what other properties have done locally. If anyone's house has gone up or developed on the land, it gives you a good precedence then if you are going to go submit planning. But yeah, good pick there. Excellent. Well, guys, that is it for us this week. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And if you've got any questions, get in touch.
Come to us, cornwallpropertypodcast.com, or email us hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com, or as many of you do, go onto our social platforms and send us a message there. But keep reaching out. It's what makes the show possible. So thank you again.
Definitely. That's a bye from me.
Bye from me as well.